And we're back. Hey, it's Don Littlefield from the Maine Brew Bus again. I'm the general manager of the company with operations in Portland, Boston, Massachusetts, and Providence, Rhode Island. But today we're talking exclusively about Maine beer, as this is part of our virtual brewery tours, a new offering that we have designed with the onset of the restrictions that we have in place. We found a new way to deliver you the news and information from breweries around the state. And that's exactly what we're going to do now. It's the 5 o'clock hour. We're going to be talking with Stephen Genthner of Blank Canvas Brewery in Brewer, Maine. Now, if you've not heard of Blank Canvas, that's okay. But let me give you a little bit of a little bit of information. Stephen Genthner himself has been brewing for nearly 20 years. He actually started with Allagash Brewing Company in 2001. Hey, you're sideways. You'll have to flip it so it's portrait mode because you're crooky right now. That's okay. While he resets that, he started brewing nearly 20 years ago at Allagash Brewing Company, and Blank Canvas was founded in 2015. Originally started in basically a bedroom, 150 square feet with a half barrel system, which is you probably could do better with your own home setups there in many cases. But what is really interesting about Blank Canvas in Brewer is the beer styles that they're making. They're making very non-traditional beer styles. So just an example of some of the offerings that are either available now or coming up include roasted garlic, dill cucumber, rhubarb kolsch, coconut curry red, and something that I know Stephen is enjoying in his glass right now. Why don't you tell us what you're enjoying right now?
This is the Bad Mother Fluffer. It is a peanut butter fluff stout.
And that involves using actual peanut butter cereal of a brand name that we will not disclose here, but you can search on their social media. You can find that pretty quickly. Bad Mother Fluffer is not quite available yet, but you're having kind of a little test sample, I believe, today.
We released it in the tap house about a month ago.
Okay.
So we've had quite a reaction to it from our customer base. Our regulars have really liked it.
Nice.
So I thought we should share it with everybody else and put it in cans.
Cool. And while I'm telling everybody what I'm enjoying, if you're able to tilt your screen down a little bit, just because the way this format works is all of the comments end up being right on top of your face, and even one more notch down will help a little bit, just so that people can see your bright, shiny face. That's pretty good right there. What I'm enjoying is not a Blank Canvas beer because I do live in Portland, and despite my best efforts, I was not able to source one of his beers. I was not able to go for curbside pickup, and I wasn't able to get delivery because I live more than 15 miles away from his brewery. So I am drinking a stout in symbolism, I guess, of Bad Mother Fluffer. This is a stout from Discretion Brewing, which is a brewery in California. This is called Scenic Stout. I know that's backwards, but you can put this up to your mirror if you can't read it yourself. Discretion Brewing Company is in Sokol, California, and my friend Chris works for that company. He had given that to me a little while ago. It felt like a good time to open that up. So we are a vacation land after all, so a Scenic Stout seemed appropriate. So first of all, Stephen, cheers to you.
Cheers.
Clink. And yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us, everybody. Just kidding. So, Stephen, thanks so much for joining. I gave him a little bit of a comment offline. I said, you've been watching so many of these, you know how the format goes. I should probably just change the whole damn thing on you. So those things I said are correct, right? You first started at Allagash 2001. They were at about 6 years old at that point. How did you get hooked up with Allagash?
It was actually it was 2001. I applied about a month or two before they called me back, and they had just hired somebody, but he didn't work out, so I got the call back and said, "Hey, why don't you come in? We'll try it out, see how it goes." And 2 years later, I decided it was time to move on and do something else. In 2015, we opened this place. I did go back to school for business to round out my education so that I could do everything. Because I did start a very small space. It was 1,500 square feet, not 150 square feet, but is actually to this day a half barrel system.
Interesting. So some things haven't changed, and some things are just bad reporting. As I read an old media report on that one. So, what inspired you to get back into brewing?
I had never stopped. I was always home brewing in between when I left Allagash. I had gone to a brew fest, and I knew that this is definitely all I want to do. I just want to talk to people about brewing and make beer and sell it. And so eventually I kind of like, this is what I want to do. This is the kind of brewing I want to do. And I never lost that sort of like experimental, I just want to try everything and see where this sort of flavor profile goes. So that's why it's called Blank Canvas Brewery, because everything works for us. You know, we'll try anything. I've had customers suggest lots of things. So we've done like we did a beer with Fruity Pebbles. It was Fruity Pebbles milkshake IPA. That was not my idea at all. Mark Kay came up with that. From Brewery.
One of the things I appreciate is the name of your company and the tagline you have, which is beer is a blank canvas. It doesn't become art until you add your signature. So to you, what is the signature that you're adding?
It's the creative je ne sais quoi of whatever you're doing to it that makes it your beer. Because a brown ale is a brown ale, but when you add coffee and donuts to it, it makes it something so much more. And so that's one of the beers that we've done is coffee and donuts.
It's literally called coffee and donuts.
It's literally called coffee and donuts.
No pretense at all.
No. It had originally started as a coffee brown, and it did not sell at all. And I was like, well, let's see what else we could do to it. See if we can get it to sell. And I put donuts in it, and it's been selling like crazy. We put it in cans.
That's all it takes. Just add donuts, right?
Yeah, once in a while, you have to add one more little thing.
For aspiring homebrewers out there, that's not necessarily a golden rule, but it does seem to work in the public eye sometimes. Tell me about where you are in Brewer. As you know, yesterday we talked to your neighbors down at Masons, and you're apparently upriver. So where are you in relation to Brewer?
We are probably, I don't know if it's even a mile away. We're maybe, they start at one end of the Riverwalk, so there's a Brewer Riverwalk, and if you start at either our brewery or their brewery, you can walk the length of the Riverwalk and then stop in at another brewery.
So, nice. Are you from Maine originally?
I'm from Maine originally, yeah.
Yeah? And where did you grow up?
I was born in Damascata. I lived there until I was 12, and then I was a Portlander until I was 25. And then I moved back to Bristol and lobster with my dad for a little while. And I ended up here in Bangor Brewer area about 10 years ago. I met my wife and we moved here and we started a family.
That's awesome. How many children do you have?
I have 2 boys. They are 9 and 6.
And how are they dealing with all of this?
They're dealing with it. They like being at home, but they also don't like having to do schoolwork at home. They would be much happier if they could just go to school and do school. They miss their friends.
Yeah, and are they finding creative ways to connect with them either virtually or, God forbid, over the telephone?
Yeah, I think we've done a little bit of connecting online, do a little FaceTime or whatever. We went and stood about 10 feet away from a couple of their friends. We went to a park, and they happened to live right across a fence. So they got to talk to their friends and see them like it was like a prison visit or something. It was weird.
That is kind of weird, but I like it. There's nothing wrong with that. So let's talk a little bit about how these changes have impacted you. You're a small operation. You, I imagine, are mostly on-premise. I don't think you're getting a lot out into the retail marketplace. Correct me if I'm wrong. But how has this affected you and your business plan?
Well, most of our business is done at the tap house. We do a lot of direct sales to customers. We started canning about a year ago, a year and a half ago now, I think, with Winterport Winery. We take kegs down there and runs. So we've been selling cans. We've been selling mostly to local businesses, but we get down as far as bootleggers and tops them if you were trying to get our stuff. But yeah, it was weird. We were ready for the ramp up of spring, summer business, and all of a sudden it shut down hard the week before they closed everything down. So we ordered a whole bunch more labels. We started just taking everything and putting it into half barrels so we can go and can it. And next week we can, I think it's like 6 barrels of beer.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so, Michael over at Winterport Winery is also the owner of Penobscot Bay Brewery. So they're also a beer brewery. And so how did you end up with that collaborative effort?
He and I are friendly. We see each other at brew fests and stuff like that. And he mentioned he was getting a canning line, and if we wanted to, we would be able to use it because he wasn't going to be using it to capacity. It's not like he would be doing canning runs every day. So he offered for us to use it, and we jumped at the chance because we had tried bottling, but it didn't really work for us too well.
So that's awesome. So he just kind of volunteered it. It's going to be underutilized, so why don't you come use it? It can help you too.
Yeah, he's going to pay for the expense of having it, of just purchasing it. So he wanted to use it as much as possible and help pay for it. So
nice.
Yeah.
Again, because you've been watching some of these, you know what's coming up. I'm going to give you a curveball question. What was the beer that was your gateway beer from macro to craft?
Oh, that was a long time ago. Gateway from micro to craft.
Oh, sorry, from macro. I think I misspoke.
Back to craft. Might have been like the beer that got me into craft beer. Might have been like Pete's Wicked or Geary's Pale. If it dates me at all.
No, I get that. I'm kind of in that same zone. I actually got to hear Pete Slosberg, actually, I found out. He spoke at an event I attended a couple of months ago. It was pretty interesting to hear his off-the-wall marketing, which was very important then, and he was trying to give advice to a room full of current brewers, and some of his off-the-wall ideas didn't exactly work out. But Geary's Pale, I grew up in Portland. I grew up at a time in which when I turned 21, there were craft beer options, and I never had a macro phase. I went right into Geary's, Gritty's, and Shipyard, the Pale, and then the seasonals, and kind of awaited the time it'd be about now that we'd be looking forward to spring and then summer beers from those companies. So do you think that those legendary Maine brewers had an impact on you?
Absolutely. I mean, I worked, I actually bottled for Geary's for about a month before I got the Allagash job. And when I first had Geary's Pale, it was the hoppiest beer I'd ever had.
Right.
It's really bitter, and I was just like, it blew me away. And but Allagash, Geary's, and way back to like Casco Bay Brewing Company, these were all beers that were like, this is so cool and different and wild flavors. And Allagash, of course, being was the only Belgian brewery around, and used weird things like coriander and orange peel, and I went for it. I was like, this is great. Look at the kind of flavor profiles you can have with something with a little bit of different jazzy stuff going into it. And,
we tell our guests on the bus, like, imagine a world in 1996 or even 2001. You don't have Blue Moon, you don't have Shock Top, you don't have Belgian Whites. Ommegang was around, but people didn't really know that much about Belgian wit beers or Belgian styles. So, I think you were in those trenches in those days where they were making beer that was not universally loved. And so I think that's a really interesting note in the Maine beer history, how much they fought against the tide at that point. By not making British style, English style traditionals, it was a different ballgame for sure.
Rob Todd used to joke that he couldn't give that stuff away.
Yeah, I think it was true. You looked at it, it looked off. You smelled it smelled funny, and you tasted it. You're like, this is not an English ale.
It worked for me. I was super into it.
Nice. One of the things I do think is interesting in your background is you went back to school, and you got your business degree. So how has that helped you by actually a fair amount more than you expect of owning a brewery is the business side of it. So how has that helped you?
It was hugely practical. I mean, I learned the language of accounting and contract law was, there was business law 101. So like I learned a bunch about contract law. So whenever, I approach something, I'm always thinking about what it means legally, and the potential for negotiation and that sort of thing. A lot of sales and marketing classes and that sort. So it was, and I actually got to do my capstone project at the end of the degree. Was just developing the idea for Blank Canvas Brewery, and I didn't even call it that at that point. But that was the project was just to open the brewery. The whole degree was just for the brewery, so it was very practical.
What was the working title at that point?
Renaissance Man Brewing Company.
Really? Do you consider yourself a Renaissance man?
I don't know, but I mean, it seemed sort of like a cool idea, but obviously I didn't go with it because it was hard to spell, and I think it was a little bit too snobby. I don't think people would have liked it too much.
I don't love the imagery myself, and there's more N's and S's in there than you'd expect. So
yeah, I's and E's and all kinds of weird stuff.
You can find us at renaissancebrewing.com. That's spelled, yeah.
I'm sure there's lots of .coms that were already taken from Renaissance anything, so I just...
Yeah. We're talking with Stephen Genthner of Blank Canvas Brewing. They're in Brewer, Maine. That's in Penobscot County, right across the river from Bangor. I see two breweries in succession have joined the conversation, so I will point out to those that are listening from Maine, if you are a Maine brewery and want to have your story told, we do have a time slot open. Tomorrow, this time slot of 5 o'clock is open. You'll be joining a lineup that includes Liberator Brewing Company out of Rockland and Brewery Extrava out of Portland. So, contact me if you're looking to join. My name is Don Littlefield of the Maine Brew Bus. You can reach me if you're a Maine brewery at Don at themainbrewbus.com. So, Stephen, when the writing started to appear on the wall, when it was clear that you were going to have to make some changes to your model, how did that information get to you, and what are some of the first things you did?
We were paying attention to all the news, all the emails that were going out from the guild. I think Heather Sanborn was sending a lot out there. And so we were getting up to date, information by the hour or whatever. And so we had already been talking about and trying to figure out what are we going to do? What's our next move? And we actually ordered a bunch of crowlers. They're called twisty cans, just to try them out and see if they work. And also to get rid of some stuff that's on tap that are one-offs that won't be seasonal in 3 months. So we definitely got the word, heard what was going on, and just made some decisions really quickly that we were going to do whatever we could. And the decision was made for us, and then the news came out that we could deliver and do some curbside. So that's what we're doing, because that's what we can do.
Nice. I want to talk about the delivery, but I do want to point out that if you have comments or questions, you can put those right in the comments section of Instagram Live, and I have somebody who's kind of curating those for me. We have two comments, actually. Michael 207 says, Pete's Wicked Winter. I remember the seasonals that Pete's Wicked Ale had. Good stuff. I remember meeting Pete originally at the Great Lost Bear in Portland when he was on a sort of a marketing tour. And then Holy 3RROR, perhaps I have that wrong, says, cheers, Stephen, love me, some Blank Canvas beer. So tell me... Yeah, right on. Tell me about your customers, your fans, your loyal fans, and then how this delivery has been working out for what is essentially a one-man shop.
We haven't been doing too many deliveries. A lot of it's been curbside. A lot of people have just come out and grabbed stuff. And a lot of the business that we're seeing is our regulars, the people that come in every weekend. So it's odd to go out and meet them because they're usually in here and we just hang out and talk a lot about what's going on, what we're doing, and what's coming up next, what's new that weekend. But now it's just sort of like, oh, we're doing this. Here's some beer. Let's do this transaction. And I'll try. I talk to them standing out in the parking lot for a little while at a safe distance, and then I come in and wash my hands and sanitize everything.
You can't be too careful, but it must be interesting to see your consumer at their home places as well.
Yep, it is interesting to go and deliver beer directly to customers. That's obviously something new for breweries. very, very briefly had delivered some Chinese food in Portland for the now closed walk-in.
Yes, right.
1 or 2 nights or something. I was covering for my brother that worked there, and so I delivered something before, so it wasn't out of the complete ordinary, but changed.
You've always seemed familiar to me, and maybe that's how those times. I think it was the number 13, which is like poo poo platter at walk-in, was one of my favorites. So. Yeah, good stuff. I see Kyle White 116 says coconut curry red is awesome.
He's one of the regulars. Hey Kyle, how's it going?
Hey Kyle, how's it going? Thanks for your support. And then the one I butchered before, Holy 3RROR, is actually Billy Dean. I don't know if you know Billy at all, but Billy, thanks for chiming in to tell us who you are.
Yes, absolutely. Billy Dean.
Totally know him. Yeah.
Of course, yeah. Our kids went to school. Yeah.
That's great. Remember back when school was a thing they went away to?
Yeah. That was fun memories.
So one of the messages we're sharing with people, and we have a lot of people that are watching from outside the state of Maine, and they're in their own communities. But one of the things that we're sharing is that Maine breweries are not closed, that they are open for business. They're just open in different ways. So we talked a little bit about the delivery. Let's talk about what you're brewing, what you've been brewing this past week, what you've got coming up in the coming week, and then how you're dealing with the consumers that normally would be coming into your tap room.
We just made a Maybach that I'm playing with the idea of throwing into a maple bourbon barrel I got. So that might be a thing that's going to happen.
It is Maine Maple Sunday, so you can make that decision right now live if you want.
Yeah, well, I got the barrel and I've got the beer, so I'll go check the gravity. I might just throw it in there today.
Sounds great. Look for that a year from now.
It'll probably roll out before then. But yeah.
Fair enough.
Maybach. I gotta roll it out this May. It's a small barrel. It's only a 15 gallon barrel, so it'll flavor a little bit quicker, more surface to volume ratio.
Yeah.
The Maybach is being done. We just kegged up a whole bunch of stuff with the Bad Mother Fluffer, Rhubarb Kolsch. Went into keg so we can can it next week. So we're probably going to do, I think we're going to do 2 different canning run days, and then I'm going to run around all over Maine and deliver beer. So I don't think I'm going to get to brew next week at all. But we definitely will be doing some more springtime beers, Fuzzy IPA, and a whole bunch of other things, which is kiwi.
Okay, yeah, I was curious. I saw the name. I didn't know what it was, but tell me more about Fuzzy IPA.
It's sort of a traditional New England style where I'm not using any hop powders or that sort of thing. We're using all Maine-grown hops and all Maine-grown base malts. So we use what's here for all of our beers, except for the weird off-the-wall flavors we're adding to it. So, New England styles always have tropical fruit, and I thought kiwi fruit would be an interesting one because I don't think I've seen kiwi in a flavor profile for a New England style. So, I thought that would be funny, and then the fuzzy name came to me. It's a fuzzy IPA.
Kiwis are fuzzy for sure. How do you come up with your beer ideas? I mean, you talked about sourcing from your customers, and I guess they get inspired. Like, what you should do? You should make a sriracha dill pickle beer, and you might be like, yeah. Actually, maybe that would work. Is that how it works? Is that how it goes?
That's going to be the next beer I brew because that sounds awesome. That reminds me of like a pepperoncini or whatever. Yeah, that would be cool. I might have to do that. See if Sriracha is board. I might have some hot sauce local one or something. But
actually, my understanding is that's owned by an individual who is pretty open with his licensing and granting rights. He is willing to let other people do it. So.
Nice.
I don't know. Yeah, interesting, but
nice. Yeah, but I'd been talking about doing a wasabi ginger beer as well, so that might happen in the near future. But definitely, maybe sriracha too.
Nice. Yeah. So how are some of the other ways that you source recipes?
Generally, it's the inspiration comes from somewhere. Either I'm eating something or sometimes I watch TV and like food, channels and stuff, and just I'll hear something about an ingredient maybe I'm not familiar with, or I am, or just a combination of flavors, and I'm like, that would probably make a pretty good beer, and then I try and match up the flavor profile of the ingredient or the ingredients that I'm working with the appropriate or fitting beer style. And sometimes it's just a beer style I want to brew that I've never brewed before. Sometimes I do just like weird styles of beer that I've never heard of or have read about, and we won't do anything to it at all because it's novel by itself. Like a Weizenbach, you don't see very often.
No.
You see it once in a while from an import, but you don't see a lot of them made here. So I'll do that for customers and stuff, educational purposes, and just because I want to drink a beer that's different.
So it sounds like basically, in many cases, you're watching Chopped, and you're looking at the baskets, and they bring out a breadfruit. You're like, I wonder what kind of beer a breadfruit would make. How do I get a breadfruit? How do I make that happen? So.
Yeah, sometimes. I mean, once in a while it's a book, but definitely. Watching media sometimes gives me an idea, and I'll run with it. Sometimes it's just eating something at a restaurant. But definitely inspired by food a lot because food, it's all flavor profiles and stuff. So.
For sure. Mr. Greg Klein chimes in, and Greg is one of our staffers. He runs our group sales programs. He's actually producing this for us. He's helping curate the questions and comments. His comment is, wasabi ginger, yes. Kyle White is back by saying coconut curry red is awesome. So sounds like, you've got fans, you've got people that are interested in you, but is it safe to say you don't make normal beer? So when people come to you thinking that they're going to get a New England style IPA and a lager and a brown ale, are they excited or are they dismayed?
Sometimes, with this market the way it is, I get almost asked every weekend, like, so do you have any IPAs? And I'm always sort of like, sometimes I definitely do. And other times I don't have one at all. And that's just how that goes. But it's definitely an interesting choice to brew beers that are non-standard. But it became a thing for our regulars and for the people who know about us. It's the reason they come here every weekend, because there will be something new they've never tried, and they're excited about that. And I'm excited about that because I've created something new, and I really want to see what people think about it, and whether or not it'll work as a beer that I can brew again, or if it's just a one-off. But it's just fun to work on, experiment with new things, and try different stuff. I've just always liked doing it.
That's great. Hey, are you able to show us around the brewery a little bit?
Sure, I could grab this tripod you're on and walk you around a little bit.
Fancy.
It'll definitely be shaky cam.
Don't knock anything over, okay?
Yeah, right. We're walking through the tap house, set up in one of the nicer corners. This is that barrel that I was talking about.
Oh, yeah.
Production spaces through this dog kennel.
Physical fence, I like that, yeah.
Yeah, you have to have either a fence or a wall separating the people from the brewery. So
there you go.
We've got our small fermenters over there. This brew system is tiny. It was originally the Friars brew system. They were using it in Bucksport.
So you stole it from a religious order?
I didn't steal it. We bought it. They're selling it. They upgraded. I think the other, they've upgraded twice, and I think the other brew system went to Frosty Bottom out of Belfast.
Oh, yeah.
And if they're watching, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's I think where it went.
Zafra, if you're watching, you can correct us, but that's where we think it ended up, Frosty Bottom. So
I think that's where it went.
Cool.
Yeah.
And that's it.
All right.
That's the tour. I mean, that's the tour, right? That's the physical spot. Bring us back to the tap room if you don't mind. And tell us a little bit about the typical guest experience when people are able to come and visit you.
When they come and visit, we are open from Thursday through Saturday, 4 to 9. We'll be hiring new tap house employees and expanding business hours we're hoping this spring, but it's looking like maybe summer, or I don't know. But we will be extending those hours. We installed a kitchen last summer, so we started selling food as well as beer in early fall last year. We're still doing that. I need to hire a proper chef because right now I'm doing it myself and running the tap house, and it's a lot of like prep work and then serving what is warm throughout the tap house hours.
What are some of the things you offer from the kitchen?
Actually, I have the menu right over there.
The problem is it's reversed.
Is it
So
too tiny?
it's reversed. Yeah, so we can't see it. So
yeah, we've got soups and chowders. Or I don't have a chowder right now. I have chili. I cook with all of our beers. So like the gravy for the poutine, the tater tot poutine that I have, is made with roasted garlic alt beer. The cheese for the soft pretzel is made with dill cucumber pale. We tried 3 different beers for that one before we got it right, and the dill made the cheddar really pop. So we went with that one. But yeah, it's a lot of pub food, a lot of simple stuff it's great to munch on while you're having a couple of beers.
do you have a culinary background?
I actually during operation for the first 2 years here, I went back to school and got my hospitality management degree, and a bunch of the hospitality management involved some culinary classes. So I did get like kitchen management, and I got ServSafe certified, and we did a little bit of cooking in the kitchen lab. So I did learn a little bit of food stuff, and I like to mess around with food. So yeah, I worked obviously as a teenager in different food service industry jobs. Yeah. So I've been around food a bunch.
That's amazing. Cool. And so the last question I have, and then we'll check the comments. So if you've got comments or questions for Stephen of Blank Canvas Brewery, make sure to put those in the comments section. If you want to just send some colored hearts and some thoughts, you can do that. I think that's available in that same section. But so the question is for you and your wife and your family. Like, how are you guys doing emotionally? How are you doing as far as adapting to the new world order?
It's definitely intense. Everybody's sort of, we don't know what's coming next. We don't know the next move. We don't know how long we're going to be social distancing ourselves and staying put. They haven't obviously ordered us to stay in our own homes full time yet, but we're definitely doing that as much as possible. And because we have small children, we're not taking them out very much other than to go for walks. We went to the beach down in Lemoyne a couple of days ago, and there's only one other person there. I mean, it's weird. It's like a ghost town everywhere. But there's definitely a little bit of stress from being stuck at home and not being able to get out and take a relief from everybody and de-stress. But we're making it through it together. We're all in it.
And I'd ask the same question of how your staff is doing, but I think the staff is ye.
Hey. It's all right. We're muddling through. We haven't laid anybody off yet.
I love it. Yeah. Stephen, I've always thought you're fun. You're upbeat. You've got some creative ideas, and I just love to see that you're able to flex and adapt. And do you think it's like the smaller size that you have gives you more flexibility to make these changes?
I guess so. I don't know. I haven't worked for a much larger brewery. We haven't grown that much. We went from 3 tap lines to 14, but I don't know. We didn't make too many changes. We ordered a couple of more things, and we just shifted gears, and we're going to see how it goes. But yeah, I mean, that's sort of the advantage that we have as a smaller industry than say the macros. Like, they got to plan out 6 months in advance, and sometimes we can do things weeks. With only a little bit of planning advance.
Yeah, for sure. Awesome. This has been great. I do appreciate the time that you've dedicated to this. I know you were nervous. You don't like appearing on television or on cameras. I know that you're really hard to talk. You don't like to talk about yourself and all of these things. Are you blushing yet? No, not quite. Yeah, okay. Got another comment here from Billy's. Billy says, hi, say hi to the family, Stephen. I'll be hitting you up for a beer this week. So
Awesome.
anybody in the Bangor, Brewer, Orono region should hit up Blank Canvas Brewery. All you have to do is check them on social media to see their hours of availability. They do have curbside pickup. They do have delivery within 15 miles, which is pretty darn generous because I think that's all still you. It seems like you might be doing those on the way home and other stuff.
Yeah. I mean, we kind of stay open for curbside for a few hours, and then the last 2 hours of what would be our tap house hours, we just dedicate to deliveries. And right now, they're mostly potential deliveries, but we wanted to reach people that wanted our stuff and that might need it. So
nice. I'm going to give you the last minute to give us a pitch about Blank Canvas and why we should support you and come visit you.
At Blank Canvas, we're a very small brewery. We're obviously individually owned, and we support local people that make local stuff to help us make more beer. So support us, and we can keep supporting everybody else who help our industry grow.
Well said. That's Stephen Genthner from Blank Canvas Brewery. They're in Brewer, Maine, in Penobscot County, right across from Bangor. If you are a person who likes to visit Mount Desert Island, consider a little detour into Brewer. Don't just pass by. Go check them out. They'll be open and ready to serve you some fun, creative, and delicious beers. You've been watching a virtual brewery tour from the Maine Brew Bus. My name is Don Littlefield. I've been your guide today. If you like what you've seen and what you've heard, we ask that you consider giving a tip towards your tour guide, towards the tour experience. As we would on our normal tours, we say that we've got a tip bucket up front. In this case, we got a tip bucket right on our homepage at www.themainbrewbus.com. You'll see a section for virtual brewery tours. You can go in there and then you'll look at the calendar, and the calendar is laid out by the different time periods that we're doing this. So if you want to show your support for Stephen, you can choose the 5 o'clock time slot on today, which is the 22nd of March, and go ahead and put a little donation in the tip bucket. It's never expected, but it's always appreciated, and it's a good way for us. It's a good way for us to stay motivated during this time period, because without our partner breweries, wineries, and distilleries, the only tour company we have is right here on Instagram. So your support is super helpful. My thanks to Greg Klein, who's been producing this behind the scenes by taking care of our questions and keeping me on track with my microphone. Tomorrow we have a lineup that has 2 out of 3 slots lined up. Liberator Brewing Company out of Rockland. Rich Ruggiero is going to be a brewing company also in Rockland. So if you remember those folks, Rich will be talking about what he's been doing in Rockland and what he's been doing in between his time in Rockland. Brewery Extrava, Michael LaCharity is going to be joining us from Portland. Michael is a person who's well known in the Maine beer scene, and Brewery Extrava is a brewery that's not even quite 1 year old, that is now adjusting with these new times and new changes. After that, we are trying to do these daily at 3, 4, and 5 o'clock. We've got a lineup that is stretching now from Tuesday and Wednesday, so we're taking time slot appointments. So if you're an owner of a Maine brewery and would like to be featured on the virtual brewery tour, send me an email at dawn@themainbrewbus.com. That's it. Keep drinking Maine beer. Keep supporting this amazing industry. And thanks for watching. We'll see you again soon. Cheers.